I'm gonna press record, and yeah, we're off to having the conversation. We just talked about podcast and conversations and stuff like that. But yeah, Skydome. Skydome was where we first started talking. It's sort of a little bit nerve wracking for me. I never told you guys this, but I was brought into the conversation. I think you and Moby and I forgot his name. What was it, the third person, the developer of Skydome?
I think the third person when we had you was one of the CMs at the time.
Oh, he was a CM. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, he was one of the
He
CMs at the
had
time.
glasses on. I know. I remember that because
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah, but he was one of the CMs at the time.
Okay.
So yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought he was actually sort of he definitely knew a lot about what was going on, but I guess that's what a CM should know. But so that's why I got the feel of him being a developer, or like at least some sort of developer on Skydome. But yeah, it was sort of nerve wracking because I've never spoken to either one of you before, and you guys had like a meeting beforehand, I think, and then I also got brought in, and we sort of also had. I wouldn't say call a meeting, but you guys were just like informing me on what you guys decided on, what we like the topics we should talk about and bring forth and all that stuff. So I, it was a little nervous. I can't lie. It was a little bit nervous, uh, uh,
Understandable.
and because it's not a thing like that. It's more like it's not a commercial per se, but it is a company stream. If you know what I mean, like it's sort of supposed to sell units. Not that Skydome was free, but you know what I mean. Like it sort of get people interested in the game, right? So I was trying to not fumble my words, or I was trying to not cut somebody off. Like it wasn't. Yeah, it was an experience that I loved doing. It was great. But I also felt like I needed more practice with it. I needed to be because I saw a guy. You guys had some. I don't know. Remember who his name was? I think his name is Technic Q or something like that. He's sort of a bigger streamer, and he was just like
Oh,
more.
technic. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yes.
just like a lot more on, if you know what I mean. He was like, yeah, hey, let's do this, guys, and then, like he was more comfortable around it at least. So yeah.
Oh, it's most likely because what's the word? He plays those kind of games more often, so for him it was like much easier to grasp, which is understandable. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
we had some people play the game and they never played those type of MOBA games, so for them it was like very, I don't know what to do. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, I definitely had it like that. I did try Skydome out beforehand, and I did a few videos on it and stuff like that. But I wasn't like, I have played League of Legends in the past, but I don't feel like that was, uh, like it sort of had some elements from a MOBA, right? But it was very new, like this genre, or I wouldn't call it genre, but I never seen any other game be like that. So. Um, it was a little terrifying, but I managed. I feel like I feel like it went okay. It's okay if you lie. I appreciate it if you.
You did well. Just because you were a little quiet doesn't mean you did not do well.
Yeah, yeah. You guys were. It's also in a way because, um, again, you want like one person talking at a time. If you have two people talking over each other, which doesn't mind here, you can cut me off whenever you want to, and I might also happen to do so because it is it's a conversation. It's not like, hey, it is just between two people talking, and in real life people do cut each other off when they say something. So feel free to cut me off whenever you want to.
Of course, of course. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. I don't tend to cut people off. I don't like that. It's
No.
fine when it happens in certain scenarios, but I don't like to particularly do that
Oh,
either.
all right. I was about to do it because I wanted to apologize because I tend to do it sometimes because I get very eager to say something, and I want to say this because I'm trying to be friendly. I'm trying to be considerate, but sometimes it happens to be cutting somebody off. So I just want to apologize in advance that I have no ill intentions if I cut you off, or if somebody's sitting out there listening in and it's like, can you stop cutting her off? Like, I try not to. I'm really doing my best, but I'm also very excited, and you know, it sort of sometimes shows not only in a conversation like this, but also in, I would say, real life. I guess we are talking real, but you know what I mean.
We are pretty much talking, just, you know.
Yeah. So I think it's best if you explain who you sort of are and what you sort of do, and feel free to add anything or leave anything out that you feel like is, you know, sort of relevant in a way, or you feel like that's what you want to share. Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it.
You ask questions, I will answer them.
You are welcome to answer me, give me questions as well. If it's something I bring up, you can ask me a question as well. If you feel like, oh,
Will
I
do.
actually seems pretty interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, am I starting now?
Yeah, I was sort of setting you up. Oh, wow.
Oh, you wow, that was just a complete. I thought you were actually going to ask me a question now.
Oh,
Like, who
no.
are you?
Yeah, who are you? Oh, you wanted me to. Okay, well, I try to not make it so like people can sort of follow along in like some sort of questionnaire, if you know what I mean. Like, this is how we like. It's I don't want it to be robotic, so it's just sort of I try to make it as natural as possible. But I
Well, of
guess it
course.
came on.
But like when you're talking to someone and it's just a casual conversation and you want other people to know, usually you would ask like, "Hey, I am this person and this is the person that's with me today." And then I'm like, "Hi, it's
Oh,
me."
oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. You can hear the professionalism around all this. Like, I'm so professional.
It's
It.
okay. I would say sometimes things like this are much genuine anyway, so it's fine. But I will go. Okay, so me. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Kinsiel, or well, at least through the wonderful world of the interwebs. I am a social media slash community manager slash tester of different companies. So technically, my main career is in video games because video games are life. I am also an artist slash musician. I've been part of quite a couple of bands throughout my young existence, especially up here in Canada. I play bass, I sing, I love music very much, rock and roll for life. When it comes to art, I like to build a lot of things, I like to paint. Aside from that, my other passions are animals. I have quite the zoo in my house. Three bunnies, two dogs, one cat, and of course, I have two wonderful children that I love and adore with all my life. So the rest of my time goes strictly for them. But that's pretty much me
Oh,
in a nutshell.
so two wonderful children. How can I ask how old they are?
Of course, my oldest is 13 and my youngest is 10.
Okay, so they're well, I wouldn't say they're discovering gaming, but they definitely
Discovering.
also.
No, they are ancient when it
Oh,
comes to video games. Living in this household with myself and my husband, we're both humongous gamers. In fact, we met through a video game. So you can imagine that as soon as our children were old enough to hold a controller, that is exactly what we gave them.
mm, but they are just that's not their style, or.
Oh, they play mini games. You
Oh,
kidding
okay.
me? They're equally as geeky and nerdy as we are.
Okay, that's what I assumed. That's what I was thinking. Like, they were, you know, very into video games as well. Like many young, like a lot of people are, at least, you know, also getting more and more. And if they have parents that are equally geeky or so, they tend to, you know, follow those footsteps, or those, yeah, whatever you call it.
Well, yes. My both my children are pretty much mini versions of ourselves. So they're very into video games and they're very into music and art. My youngest is very good at building things, and my eldest sings very very well. She's part of like her choir and she plays instruments as well. So they have a pretty healthy balance, I would say, of us, and pretty much us in a nutshell is video games and music.
Yeah.
So they're good. They're good.
So children like parents, or parents like children, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we are children at heart ourselves,
Oh
so
yeah.
it goes both ways.
So you said something about community manager. What you said, social media manager and community manager. What is the difference? Because I don't know.
What is the difference? Well, community managers are usually the front end people you will see in different video games dealing with the community. They're sort of like the bridge between the community of the game and the development team of the game. So you will usually see community managers. They're the ones that players get to go talk to. They're the ones that get to bring all the updates and information and keep everything up to date. They're also the ones that pretty much bring any sort of concerns and feedbacks from the communities they take care of back to the respective teams to make sure that everybody's happy and everybody has a good quality of life. Social media managers is usually the people that you will see marketing the game. They're the ones that are the gurus of all types of social media, making sure that everybody in the world finds out about the game that they're loving and pretty much promoting. And
Hmm.
of course, they're the ones that also build relationships with people like us, streamers, influencers, as how people call them nowadays. And they build a lot of relations so that way everybody can go far with the product that they're trying to showcase.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you said community manager for like games, right? So because I seen you. Well, it's not secret. It's you work for Gamigo. Um, so what I was saying was, or what I was thinking was that I had Steadfeed on. She used to be a community manager for Trove, um, but that was part time. Yours is full time, right? Like all your different positions and stuff like that. That's a full time job.
Oh, yes, it's a full time job.
Yeah, yeah. And you you actually told me that because maybe that's like actually a better question. How long have you been like community manager, social media manager, stuff like that?
Uh, well, I technically have been both for the past 2 years, but prior to working for Gamigo, I actually used to be a social media slash community manager for some esports organizations that used to be well known back in the day. They're not
Hmm.
anymore. One of
Okay.
them literally does not exist, and the other one kind of went on a hiatus because our glorious leader went back to school, and she's just finishing her side of things, and we'll probably like catch up to everything when she's back. But I started pretty much my love of doing both those particular positions with esports organizations. So I used to take care of the streamers and of course the community that used to watch us, and we have a big focus on Twitch at the time. Like social medias weren't necessarily our big thing, but then obviously we started doing things like blogs so we could actually bring gaming news as well from our perspective, and of course our progress with our teams. And that's pretty much where I started. And then eventually I was able to uh, successfully acquire a position in an actual video game company, which is pretty awesome.
So was that just to get a timeline? You said 2 years. That was when you started working for Gamigo. Was
Yes.
but at that time,
Before
because I think
that,
they had
oh,
already acquired Trial World, right? The Trove and the other games, right? Or was it at the same time, or what? Like,
I am actually don't know exactly how that went because that was not my game. That was
no.
not the game that I was taking care of. So, um, I actually don't know the timelines and when they acquired that. I
Uh,
have no idea.
no, I think because if you say 2 years, I think it's actually as I remember it, it was. Oh yeah, yeah, it was the. I remember it actually now that I actually used my brain. It would be great if I could. Um, but it's 3 years. What is it? 4 years ago? Oh, 3.5 years ago. 3.5 years ago, because it was in the fall of 2018. Because that was when I went to TwitchCon, and that was in 2018, and they unfortunately announced the bankruptcy, whatever you call it, the acquisition, just a month before that. So that I have to just dial it back a little bit. So yeah, they had already required Trine World. So yeah, so you just it wasn't like, hey, we now acquired all these games. No, you could use some people, and then you got like in like that. It was just a regular, thing.
Yep, it was a completely different game, completely different necessity.
But I sort of know that uh, your game, or at least what I feel like your game is it's not Trove. It's a but I'm split between Fantasia, if I'm saying that right, and then another game that sort of to me, because I haven't tried them. I haven't tried them. I should be trying them. But there's two diff. It's like there's one the game that also is from the same place that sort of looks like the same thing. I'm sorry if I'm just like generalizing the two games, but
I don't think they look the same, but
uh,
they're from the anime unit.
yeah, okay. So they sort of have an anime feel to it, both of them,
Yeah.
and that's Grand Fantasia and what's the
There's
other one?
actually three games that are
Okay,
anime related. There's Grand Fantasia, there's Aura Kingdom, and there's Fiesta Online.
Fiesta Online. That was the one that they to me when again I haven't tried them out, so I'm just they might be completely different. Well, they are probably completely different games, but just looking at them at the different games when you see them and stuff like that, you sort of feel a little bit just in style with each other. I'm not saying it's the same game, but at the same time they sort of have style references to each other, I guess, in a way. But
Well, they're all technically on the same category. If by that you mean like they're all MMOs and they're all anime MMOs. So in a way, like the fantasy setting and the way that they look, it's
mm,
um it's alike, but not necessarily the same. They
no,
obviously
no.
have their uniqueness, each one of them. But yes, they're all anime MMOs, and they all have like their cute little perks that it's very unique to each one of those games.
And that's one of the games you came from, right? Or came from? I don't know.
Yes, I was totally bored by one of them. Like one of them just brought me to this world. It was like, here, have a
Yeah,
Kinsey. But yes, one of those games is it's my game that I take care of and love very, very much.
yeah. Because I sort of feel like 'cause when you've done a few streams, you did also a Christmas stream and all that stuff where you like rotated through the games, and um, I'm not saying you're not excited about Trove because that's, but it definitely felt like when you were talking about these Grand Fantasia and all these other MMOs, the anime MMOs, like this was sort of uh, like you talk about you always like if you talk about your like you everybody sort of loves children, right? It's like, well, we love children, but it's your own children, those are the ones you love more, right? Is, you know what I mean? Like you're excited about everybody else's kids and they're cool and stuff like that, but your own kids, right? You know what I mean? Like it's sort of just a
Yes.
reference.
I'm always very excited about my own child. And I'm usually excited about all the games that I get to showcase. That
Yeah,
is
yeah, of
just
course.
that is it comes with just the way that I generally am about video games, but it also comes with the job. You develop a sense of a lot of love and care for all of them. And I do love Trove, but
Mm.
I am very new with Trove. There's so much things that Trove has to offer that I have no idea of. And it's a constant learning experience and I love it. And I always discover something new and it always makes me feel like a little kid because it's like, oh my God, it's like Christmas. I just found something new. Um, but of course, like when it comes to like actual knowledge, my knowledge of Trove is not the same as my own baby game. When it comes to my baby game, I know everything. So,
Mm.
I get excited, but I cannot be as overly excited as people that like pretty much know the ins and outs. So my excitement goes as far as my knowledge goes.
Yeah, it's also about comfortability, like being comfortable around a game that you know a little bit about, and and then a game you know a lot about, and you've been playing it for years and years and years. So yeah, I totally get that. It wasn't like I again, it wasn't anything about you not liking Trove, because it's just new to you, and yeah, you're sort of I feel like you are getting more and more into it for sure. Like when we, because now you've been taking over the community streams on the, at least when Trove has its monthly stream or something like that, or you showcase like some stuff on Trove and such with
Yes.
Adam and
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes, I do hang out with the good old devs to present all the beauties Trove has to offer.
Yeah, I would actually love to talk to them as well about Trove. I asked Moby. Moby has also been on for like a year ago or something like that. I think it was, or 6 months ago or something like that. And in that, I asked him if he wanted to ask the devs, because I don't know how to contact them if they wanted to come on and have a conversation as well. But I think they were sort of well, they saw what it was, and they thought they might have been thinking it was very personal, but it doesn't have to be personal. Like if we could like dedicate a whole episode to just talking Trove, and sort of just geek out about Trove, because that could be an episode as well. It doesn't have to be like a sort of what's it called, like a personal thing, if they don't feel like they want to put their lives out there online, if you can say it like that. Not that I feel like I have these hard hitting questions about life, like or people's lives at least.
I suppose they might be cautious. I mean, I would be too. Like there
Mm.
will be certain things that for sure I would never speak about
Yeah,
anywhere because, there are rules.
yeah, of course there
But
is.
when it comes about me and what I do in my streaming time as a streamer, it's completely unrelated to anything I do with work life.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
yes,
it's
I don't know. Everybody feels different about what they want to showcase or not showcase, and perhaps they feel like everything they could possibly geek out about Trove, they can pretty much attach it to when they show their beautiful faces and they stream about Trove.
yeah,
Their
100%,
community streams.
100%. It was just that I didn't want them to have the feeling like I don't think I expressed the feeling, or what do you say? Like I didn't express that it can be anything. It doesn't just because our episode, for example, that we're talking right now, is gonna be has to be the same for them. It can be like if they just say, "Yeah, sure, we'll come talk to you," but we don't want to reveal anything about you know our personal lives or what we do outside of work, because we sort of have to talk about a little bit about work, like. But I wouldn't. It's always open, and I didn't mention this to you either. It's 100% okay, because it's just a conversation, and we haven't scripted anything. I didn't like in this moment. I don't even know where I'm going with this either. But it's 100% legit to just say I don't want to talk about this, and I can't talk about this, or this is not something I feel comfortable about, because I don't know where the conversation leads to. But for me, that makes it more real, because we're having a real conversation and people are listening into a real conversation, not just something where, I sent you a bunch of questions and you sort of know everything we're gonna speak about. But so that's why it's also very what's it called, legit to say I just don't want to talk about that, and then we'll move the conversation into something else. So it should be a nice conversation.
If anything happens that I will not answer, I'll be like next,
Yeah.
and then we'll be good.
Have a big buzzer that you just people's ears just blow off.
Yeah, no more. No, can't go there.
Yeah, this is not like, this is not supposed to be either like hard hitting journalism or anything like that. It's not like gonna dig deep into all the things that you do at Gamigo. It's just to give people the feeling of like, what do you do for like Gamigo? Why is it sort of the background? Why I also started with the that's why I started with the talk about Skydome and all that stuff. So yeah, Uh, Everything happens for a reason. So yeah, if something happens, like if a child or something like that, if somebody comes into the room, because I think you're working from home. I think he is.
I do work from home.
Yeah. So if anything happens, if you have to leave, kid, I don't know, it spills cereal or whatever happens or whatever's going on in the background, you can just, we'll just cut it out if you know what I mean. Like we'll just
Of
that's
course,
just what happens
understood.
in a real conversation. Still, like it.
Yeah,
So don't worry if something happens and you're like, oh, I'm doing something. Don't like leave me alone. I'm still working. So don't worry about things like that. It has to be very natural. Everything.
of
That's
course.
the least the most important thing. So yeah. Um, what you also said you were streaming. You stream, but you don't stream like only that the video games you talked about before, right? I thought you
No,
streamed a
no,
lot
no, no.
of different things.
I stream many other games that have completely no relation to the games I work with. While I have absolutely nothing against streaming the games that I work with,
Mm.
I have particular likes and interests when it comes to streaming video games, and I like to explore that side when I actually stream. So, horror games are a big thing for me. I love horror games, so I'm constantly streaming them. And I have certain series, franchises of video games that I love to replay. And I try to practice speed running, and then I like to try brand new games and just see how it goes and have a good chuckle. I also love playing multiplayer games, so I have specific games and specific dates that I get to hang out with like some of my favorite people from the interworld, and we all get together and then we just literally play for hours and hours as we laugh, and we're all like eating together and we watch movies together. So streaming for me is like my major way to socialize and get to know a lot of people and make new friends and just have my own fun with
Mm.
like a lot of things I don't get to have a lot of time with. So when I do get the time, I pretty much spend it on that. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess your husband is part of that sometimes, or
Sometimes, yes. Of course, I have my own games that I like to play with him specifically, and then we of course have always our personal time. But there are games that when we get to play it as a group, of course he is part of it because he is part of that set group.
mm.
But I also have specific games that I tend to play with specific people because let's say X or Y person does not particularly like that game, but A and B do. So I divide myself and I conquer when depending on the game that I feel like playing. So not everybody likes the same game. So I usually try to like divide it on the days that I know I can give them a little bit of time to everybody, pretty much very well balanced. And it's like sometimes people want to play things like Overwatch, but not everybody likes Overwatch, so I go and I play with the people who do. And there's other people that love to play games like Dead by Daylight or Phasmophobia, but the other people that I just play Overwatch with do not, so I get to play with the other people who didn't get to play with me, and so on and
Mm.
so forth. I try to do things as balanced as possible for the sake of myself as well, for the sake of everybody that wants to hang out with me, because I enjoy spending time with people. So
Yeah,
I do.
I guess that sort of comes with the uh, I wouldn't say the job, but because you probably I'm just gonna assume here you really like your job, and that's sort of also with people, right? You can't be a social media or a game a game not game master. What is it called? Like I forgot the
Community
words.
manager.
Community manager, that's what. Yeah, the community manager, like you basically your job is to interact with people, right? So like you do have to like it, right?
It is, but you would be surprised how many people have certain careers in their life and they're not necessarily fond of them. There's a lot of artists out there that they love drawing and they will work for specific companies drawing specific things, and the things that they need to draw for their work is not necessarily at all what they like. They probably sometimes despise it, but they have their own type of art that they love to do, and when they get their own time, that's what they focus on. The same could actually be said about positions like what I have, social media or community management. You have to be in the midst of everybody and everything, and that doesn't necessarily make me like a super, like, what is the word, extroverted individual. For all people know, I could be super introverted and just dislike the entire world, and gaming is what pretty much makes it bearable for me to hang out with people. Of course that's not the case for me, but I do know people that are like that. They don't like to be around people, but their jobs require them to be around people, and in ways that might never be understandable, they excel at it because they have a passion to do their job right. So it technically depends on the kind of person that you are. Like, everything I've ever done throughout my entire life has always been surrounded by people, from music to my first career choices to the ones that I currently have. So it's like everything that I always want to do surrounds me with people. And to be honest, I enjoy being with a lot of people. To be honest, I love learning from all the different individuals that are out there, and that's one of the things that streaming brings for me. And probably why I enjoy it as much, because I get to meet people from all over the world, and everybody has different ideas and different ways of talking, wonderful accents, great cultures, and I don't know, it's just nice. It's just nice to see what the world has to offer, even if pretty much I'm only getting the internet experience.
Yeah, 100%. It's very interesting the like that people would work with something like that has something to do with people, and then like don't like talking to, or interacting with people outside of their job, right? Like that's also sort of like also weird for me because I work as a teacher and I literally can't do my job without interacting with people. Um, but I guess it's also um, I guess it's also the type of people, because I work with kids, right? And I do think that kids are more genuine or like real in their interactions than adults are. So that's at least something I seek a lot in my different relationships and stuff like that, or the relationships that I do have with my friends and stuff like that. That I want real, like talking about real conversations and stuff like that. Real. I don't want people to string me along, for example, just saying, "Oh, I'm your friend. I'm your friend. Let's be friends," and stuff like that. And then actually on the like whenever they're alone or they get home, they're just like, "Oh my god, I can't stand that guy. He's just so annoying," right? And it's like, just be real with me, right? And I feel like that's at least why I love my job as a teacher, is that I get that real interaction, because kids are just gonna be like straight up with you and just call you whatever. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes a bad, but mostly it's a good thing because you get to know how it really is and people actually how they actually feel about you instead of just putting on a show or like in that way.
Yeah, children have no filter. Children, they see the world as it is, and they have absolutely no reason to be afraid of what they need to say because they know it's the truth. So, like, why would they have to be worried about that? Well, adults, sadly, throughout the years, depending on their lives, they can get defensive, or of course, like, worry with extent,
Mm,
life is not easy, so of course the innocence of a child gets corrupted pretty quickly the older they get.
mm.
But I do love children as well because of that. Like, my kids will say sometimes the most crazy things that I will look at them and I'll be like, what? It's just because they call it as they see it, and to be honest, is a beautiful thing, and I wish we as adults could also do the same. Like, a lot of us, we love to be true and real with everybody. Well, there's some people that rather be fake because it's a defense mechanism, I guess, or sometimes just an excuse. But either
Mm.
way, it's not as easy as we would like it to be, even when we're trying to be real all the time. Because words can hurt, and sometimes the truth can hurt very much, and that can sometimes cause ripples. So it always depends on which side of the conversation you are, right? There's people like me that I would rather you to tell me to my face what is wrong, what you
Mm.
don't like, and it might hurt a little bit, but you know what? I'd rather know than you just going to this degree where you just become silent and then don't say anything and suddenly you just drop out of my life. And it's like, but where did you go? Where did it go wrong?
Yeah.
And it's like you don't get that chance to be able to fix things that could have easily been mended if people would just communicate. I do love communication, and it's probably why as much as I'm always surrounded by people, I have very, very few close people at heart because it's hard to find people who are willing to go the same mile that I do when it comes to communication and relationship overall. People don't see friendships as pretty much a relationship like you would see a significant other. While when you think about it, you pretty much have to go have and have just like regular relationships would. Like if you don't talk and I'm the one always talking, like there's gonna come a point where I'm gonna be like, well, but why am I the only one talking? Like he should talk too. And then I'll just be quiet and wait. And then you'll be like, but why don't you talk no more? And I'll be like, but why don't you? It's like, it would just be nice to for people to see that you give what you receive. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, more
It
like you receive what you give. I said that completely backwards. But yeah, you know what I meant. You
Yeah, I think it's all about expectations. I guess, like when it comes down to it, like if you interact with somebody, you kind of sort of have the want to have the same expectations. Like you were talking about communication, right? You weigh that very high, so you want somebody that's also weighing in on communications as much as you are, and that's that's the same thing as you just said. Like relationships with a significant other is the same thing, right? Like it takes time. Friendships takes time, and it takes dedication and stuff like that. And sometimes it can be hard. But it is has to be nurtured and has to be uh, done the right way. In all that.
Yes, it
So
does. I do want to ask. You mentioned that you're a teacher. What do
yeah.
you teach?
What I teach social skills. Basically, it. I can talk about it. It's not a secret. It's not that it's a secret or I'm a super secret teacher man. Uh, it's just that in Denmark, where I'm from, is that we have. It's basically the Nordic countries. Like it has it in Sweden and Norway. I'm not sure if they have it in Finland, but at least those two others they have it. So technically the right term for it is pedagog, and it sounds weird because it uses the e, which the English speaking people of the world do not use that letter, but it's something we have three extra letters, not to brag, but we have a longer alphabet. That means that we, of course, is better than everybody else. No, but basically it's a teacher. There's no word for it in English, so we use the word teacher, but basically because in Denmark we have everybody in this like we don't have special classes for kids that has basically harder time learning or socializing and stuff like that. So what we've done instead is that we have everybody in the same class, like where you have a class, and then we've hired people or we take educations as a different sort of teacher. So it's basically like I said, just like a teacher, but we more have the responsibility of the social aspect of the classes. So I'm part of two different classes where I have sort of my eye on the social aspects of the class, where the teacher has more the the subjects basically, Danish and math and other history, English, all that stuff. So I just sort of as sort of an extra teacher, but like I said, I have the aspect of make sure that because I'm educated more in the social interactions you have with each other, and like how is why is this kid like picking on this kid, and why is there a conflict between these two children, and all that sort of stuff. So I do use the term, like I said, teacher, but I don't teach specific subjects like math and Danish and history and all that stuff. So it's sort of weird concept when you don't know it, but it makes a lot of sense to us here. But yeah, so I just basically tell people that. But my main focus is 100% the kids that has they can have anxiety, they can have sort of any sort of yeah. I support them in all sort of social aspects of their everyday life in school school day basically.
Hmm. I like that. That's actually a pretty good system to have for. I'm not particularly fond how the educational system is up here in Canada, but going back to your extra letters of the alphabet, my people also have extra letters of the alphabet too. Although
Do
we don't
you
have
in
three,
Canada?
we have two. I'm not Canadian though. I live in Canada, but I'm not Canadian.
Oh, what are you then?
What are you?
What
I am
are you?
Puerto
Tell
Rican.
me.
Yes, I am Puerto Rican.
Oh, you're Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, I am a full Caribbean Hispanic lady.
Ah, ¿cómo está? That's all I can say. Don't quiz me in Spanish, please. Please. I tried
I
to
will
look cool,
not.
but I failed. Don't worry. Don't.
It's okay. It's okay.
So, wow. Okay. So, how did you end up in Canada? Like, was it
My husband.
husband? Oh, okay. So you guys met through the game, uh, really hit it off, you guys, and then he's from Canada. Then
Yes.
okay, and then you said, "Oh, Canada looks great, eh?"
It was more like, okay, well, we got married, we're having kids. Where do we want to go?
Oh, okay.
And he was like, you know what? Well, I'm bilingual. He's not, so there was no real point to staying in my island. And I was like, you know what? I've lived in the States. It's not that wow. So let's go somewhere new. I never gone to Canada, and I visited and I really, really liked it. And I was like, you know what? This is a wonderful country to have many opportunities. And we decided, and then, let's just go back to Canada and just build our family there and like have our lives. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, that's those. That's like the cool thing about like if the where we never know, right? We never know, but I'm just gonna assume that if you guys didn't have the video game, you probably never would have met, right? Like again,
Yeah,
the
probably no.
like you could never say that you wouldn't have met in some way if you guys didn't play the same video game or whatever. But I'm just gonna say that you guys, you know, of course, met through the video game, and you wouldn't have else. So that's just the cool thing about like the positive sides of everybody talks about all the toxicity, and you probably also see it sometimes a little bit. At least I see it a little bit about because I follow Trove, and I will assume also that either in all the other games that you manage and stuff like that, you experience this a little bit of toxicity or hateful comments or whatever as they're I think that might be a little snowflake out there that never experienced a bad comment or somebody being toxic toward somebody. That might be somewhere, but usually, it happens to us some more than others. But that's one of the wonderful things there is about like video games and also the internet in general. That's what I'm sort of getting towards. Like it can actually be a wonderful thing where you meet either your significant other or friends, like you're talking about your friends. And I've met friends through, gaming and stuff like that. Met people that I visited in America. Like I have had amazing trips to America, meeting people in real life because of video games. I'm actually going to TwitchCon this year in here in EU. I've been to TwitchCon in America as well. I also been to BlizzCon and stuff like that. But I'm going to TwitchCon EU this year in Amsterdam with a friend that I met through World of Warcraft way back. Like we've played other games, and of course in a way, I mean he's been down here a bunch of times with some of my other friends up from north of Denmark, and they come down here, and I go up there, and we have wonderful D&D sessions and stuff like that. And that's all through playing video games. Like if I hadn't played World of Warcraft back then, I would never met these people, and of course I would have probably have some other friends, but I'm just that wouldn't happen if like I would never have known about those people because it's the other. Okay, Denmark is not that big, but still, like I wouldn't still not have had the experience. Maybe like I wouldn't maybe not get the experience this summer because like I would have nobody to go with, so I probably wouldn't have gone. And but I will now because I know somebody that wants to go with me. so so I'm just sort of explaining, or not explaining, so I'm just talking about the wonderful that can be about the internet as well. Um, but how do you deal with like I guess I just get a little bit curious on how do you because you experience like you basically you are just you're just promoting sort of like if I'm making quotations, you guys can't see it of course, and but if you could see my hands, I'm making quotations and saying you're just basically promoting a game. That's your job, right? That's very basic, but my point is um, you're just there to give people the chance to play a video game. But then people get so like what I was talking about before is that you experience firsthand, uh, sometimes on the different social media platforms that you promote the game that people have negative comments, right? How do you deal with all that? Like, you yeah? How do you deal with all that? Like personally, I guess, or like as a your job and stuff like that.
Well, um, I believe not just my job in the video game industry, but every single job that exists in the great world has its ups and has its downs.
Mm,
Like for example, you're a teacher. You probably have really really good kids that never give you an ounce of trouble, and you probably have some kids that sometimes get snippy and give you attitude.
mm.
That's not
It
because of you,
happens. Yeah.
but it happens. Um, I, as a player as well as a staff member,
Mm,
have learned how to objectively see things from both sides. Um, while a lot of people can vent their frustrations in different ways, I do my best to always be open minded
mm,
and listen and take in consideration how they feel as well as what they want to convey to me. Now, sometimes that doesn't mean that what they might be saying might could be wrong or could be kind of an attack. It happens,
mm,
Sometimes people get heated in the moment and they lose their own train of thought and what they want to do in a constructive way, it can turn into something pretty intense in like a matter of seconds. And I'm always prepared for that kind of things because in the end, my way of thinking, even if sometimes can be frustrating or it can even be hurtful, is that in the end I will still do the best of my abilities to make sure that their voices are heard and that the community is happy. So while it can be rough sometimes, I will forevermore have a pretty, how does the word, a pretty positive attitude towards everything,
mm,
no matter how bad it is. I will always try to look at the bright side of things, or at least, even if all people want to bring me is issues, I will always aim to find the solutions instead of just focusing on how bad the issue is or just the fact that they're all issues. So that's probably just the way that I tend to just deal with life overall. It's not just even a work thing, that's just life.
mm,
uh, so that's just the way that I do it. Sometimes it's harder than other days, but I still aim for the exact same result. I just want to make sure that things are done and people get their answers and everybody gets at least. a bit of what they want. Obviously, with every single work in the universe, you can always give 100%, just like how they cannot always give 100% either. Like you always have to find a happy medium. So it's always my aim to be able to compromise somehow. It might not be the best, but at least it's something. But I will always definitely just make sure that I find the solutions to what they worry about. So regardless
Mm.
of how they may present the information to me, that's always what I have in my mind. It's like, you know what? Yes, I hear you. Let me see what I can do. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, I guess your position is a little bit different than Steadfeed was, because she kind of, I feel like she did it on her free time, where yours, like we talked about before, is a full time. So I'm just sort of curious now that you, when you talk about like how you proceed with all these things, um, is there guidelines? Of course, there's guidelines, but I'm saying like if somebody comments something on, for example, let's say Trove's Twitter thing, where you post something and then somebody puts a comment. I'm not saying it's a negative or positive, but they ask something. What is the procedure then? Like, do you maybe you know don't specifically is on the Trove Twitter? This might be somebody else that has responsibility for that, but it's just an example. But do you just answer them, or do you uh, uh, or do you need to talk to somebody if you can, like, of course if there's something you don't know, but I'm saying if you know it, do you still have to talk to somebody, like kind of get the approval to answer it, or how does that work?
I would not know.
Okay.
I mean, every single game and their communities, and this is like talking from major companies, things like Blizzard or even Riot, everybody has like the rules that pretty much kind of go hand in hand with the rules of the platform that they're using. So for example, like things that happen in Discord, like sometimes people think that the way they're being sometimes having any sort of sanction is just because a person just wants to silence them. What they also forget that Discord has a specific TOS they also need to follow. It's not just the game that they're hosting a server for, but it's also them as well. So I would imagine that every single company out there, just like Blizzard, they have the rules of how they like to deal with everything, whether it is good or bad.
Mm.
And based on things that I've seen, even the bad, or what would people consider bad, if I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be bad. It could be a criticism that is not necessarily something people want to hear, or it could just be somebody just not being happy at all, so they just want to vent. I
Mm.
believe that every company deals with it completely different, but usually, at least one thing that I do see in common is that people don't ignore uh community members whatsoever. Like even if there's not much to say,
Mm.
I would imagine they get answered one way or another. I usually do. Uh with everything that I have the power to answer. Of course, I would not want to jump into a conversation that I know nothing of, because that would not be productive and it would not be helpful to neither the game or the community member that is trying to get somewhere. So I don't know how everybody else does it, but at least speaking for myself, I do the best that I can with the information that I do know. And if I don't know it, I go find it.
Yeah.
So it really
I,
depends.
I sort of feel like people sort of just assume that they're getting ignored, even though they're not getting ignored. Like you're trying to maybe find the answer, and maybe somebody says, "Yeah, well, we have no answer for that." Maybe you go like write to them, "Do we know anything about this?" And they like, "Yeah, no, we don't know anything about that." And then you can't text everybody's comments saying we don't know. Then it also sort of signals that. Like if it keeps like that, that just gets the signal out there that you guys don't know anything, right? It's like it doesn't. Yeah, at this moment we're not sure, and we can't just spill like something that's half done or not even not finished or completed and all that stuff. So sometimes people just assume that they're getting maybe ignored or whatever, right? Like it people always sort of like I wouldn't say expect the worst, but like they assume the worst. That's what I meant. Like they assume the worst about gaming companies and all that, like social medias and all that stuff. Like they always drawn to, or they always precede the negative. I feel like in so many ways, or maybe it's just because it's just positive is harder to precede than the negative, and people are very good at just, oh, this is bad, this is the worst, and stuff like that.
Pretty sure this is most likely a universal thing, but
Mm.
I think by just by the way humans are wired, it's so much easier to find the negative out of everything that is in your grasp than actually just trying to put the effort to see the good in things. It's like when people are super impatient. While they know that things are being done, but they're not being done at the time they want it to be, so it's immediately a negative response of whatever it is that they're waiting for. Just because it's not going into their timeline to what they want in the precise moment that they want doesn't mean that there's no progression. But as I said, people would rather um, focus on the negative pretty quickly and just be like, no, this is not what's happening. And because of that, like, you suck. It's like, it's kind of silly. And I personally don't understand. I see this just in like friendships and sometimes simple interactions that I do see with people around me. In the real life world, not just the internet is even easier for you to just focus on the negative because you're behind a computer. What is the world going to do to you? You can just
Yeah.
throw whatever you want out there and you have absolutely no uh a consequence by what you're saying. Of course, there's some things that obviously have a pretty intense consequence, regardless of whether you are behind a computer or not. But people can just go there and vent everything. And what is the world going to do? They're going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to hear that. But what are you going to do about it? Absolutely nothing. You can't do nothing. It's
Mm.
there. Like they can just keep going and going and going. And I feel like the internet gave us so much freedom to make connections and actually make good things, and somehow people still just try to use it for non-happy thoughts. I am pretty realistic. You can't be happy all the time.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's just like it's impossible. But does it really fulfill anyone by just focusing on the negative of everything? Like I just don't get it. I will never get it because
Mm.
I can sit down and do something that I love and suddenly something breaks out of it and I'll be like, well, damn, that really sucks. That it just broke like right there. I'm like, oh, it's inconvenient, but I don't lose like my peace of mind or my sanity because of it. And I do see how people sometimes lose everything in just a matter of like one single moment just because it went wrong. And it's like there is so much more good and betterness out there than that is bad, and you would rather choose to focus on the bad. It's like you need a Snickers. You need a Snickers
Oh
and
yeah,
bring
the Snickers
sweetness
is
and happiness.
it should be implemented in every computer or a console, like a Snickers dispenser. When you when you suddenly get you can feel like the rage is coming on, the toxicity or whatever, then it dispenses a Snickers and they're like, oh, great, good job.
Could you
um
imagine computers having that where they have infinite Snickers supplies and every time they feel that you're overstressed and it's like, here, have a Snickers. Just sweeten your life. That would be great. We
yeah,
would probably get
but
diabetes, but
get diabetes, yeah. No, but it could also provide more toxicity because people want the Snickers, right? So they're being on purpose being toxic just to get the Snickers out of the computer, right? Like,
nah,
uh,
it would need to be something where they actually feel like the stress levels in your body and your blood and your like everything through your mouse and it gets sent to the computer. It's like, you know what? They're truly stressed out. It's not
mm.
just them needing a snack. It's like
Yeah,
give me
exactly.
some Snicker now.
Um, and also, like I see the and I think they might see it as well. If you talk about like the now like Trove, that's I guess it's very general for every developer out there. But I feel like sometimes people just sort of forget, or I think it comes from a place of passion, but when people have negative comments, whatever it might be. They sometimes forget that it's just like they're not like developers, for example, of Trove. They're not here to make your life worse. Like they're just making a video game. It's just like if you don't like the video game, I usually tell people it's just like you can play other video games, right? If you're not happy with the current state of any video game, it doesn't have to be Trove. There is other video games out there. There's actually a lot of video games out there. So maybe Trove is just not your fit right now. Maybe go look at something else, right? Like, but it feels like people sort of get takes it personally if the game is not good, or if there's something other in the internet they don't like. It can be anything that they take so personally and feel like they have to say something instead of just moving on and just say, hey, okay, this is clearly not for me. Like I'm just gonna move on and just leave it alone. Uh, and that just seems weird to me that people I feel like sort of cage themselves in this negativity about a specific thing instead of just moving on. And I don't really get that. Like if you cage yourself with this negativity, you're not gonna be happy. You're just gonna keep looking at it, and it's gonna be like something annoying or something bad. And instead of just, I'm just gonna move on and just leave it be and have the people that like it, whatever it is, let them have the thing, right?
Exactly. That's how I feel too. How so many people complain about World of Warcraft. How could you play that game? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what? Why must we judge what other people like? Just
Hmm.
let them like it. If you don't like it, that's okay. There's a million other things that were made for you and everybody else. Just
Hmm.
go find your calling. It's why I said I don't understand why people like to focus on just like hammering that nail just to try and prove a point. It's like, what for? It's okay if you don't like it. We're not meant all to like the same things or have the same opinions. You're allowed to have your difference of opinion, your difference of likeness,
Hmm.
but
100%.
don't shove your beliefs in other people. Like, don't do that. It's not
if
nice.
if if there was only one video game and one whatever stream out there, like if there was only one thing you could do in life, if there was only one video game you could play, then yeah, you that should be the best game of all time. Everybody should like it. That's just logical, right? But since there is so many different games, like there's not there and so many different games in the same genre. For example, like let's take Counter Strike. That's a shooter, right? But there's also Fortnite. If you like Fortnite, like it is still shooters, but it's uh, I would say not vastly different games, but it's different games, right? So if you don't like Counter Strike, you go play Fortnite if you like shooters, and the other way around. It doesn't mean that there's it there is so many opportunities, so just move on. Like why focus on only one little thing instead of you just look look past it. Go beyond and
I know.
and find your calling, as you said yourself, in something else, instead of just having somebody's or taking on other people's callings in a way, I guess. Like
Oh
just
yeah. Like I have a lot of friends who love royale games. I don't like battle royale games. You will never see me play one of them. Like I just don't. I don't. And people will be like, "Hey, come play things like Fortnite with me." And I'm like, "No, I don't like it." They're like, "But why?" I'm like, I just don't like it. Maybe
hmm,
it's just complete unreasonable hate towards it. I mean, I wouldn't call it hate, but of course, I must be dramatic. But like no, I just don't like it. I'm like, unless someone pays me like $1 million, I will never touch it. I'm sorry. But
we'll
I
start a
don't
petition.
I don't go and I start like being mean to my friends because I'll be like, oh my god, why are you playing such a crappy old game? And it's like, no man, you know what? I will be like, ew, if they say something, and then I'll be like, but you know what? You go enjoy it. I hope you have fun. Don't die. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Not difficult. And oh my god, the amount of people who cannot do that. They must just bring you every single fact that exists in the world of Google.
Mm.
It's like gaming MD instead of WebMD. Like you just go there and you find every possible fact you can to dislike a game and then you throw it at people. It's like, no. You just wasted your time and my time. I could have just gone and play and have
Yeah, exactly. It's
fun.
just wasting. It's just wasting time, and I don't know where it comes from. I guess it's just animalistic thing where it's just like coded into us that everybody like you can probably like put this analogy on like everything in life where it's like when people have different opinions, they get argues and stuff like that. I guess it sort of comes from the same thing that if I like Fortnite, for example, then you should also like Fortnite, right? Like it's probably from there the analogy comes from. Like it's there that, but I feel like uh, it's unfortunately the majority that probably has it like that. I'm not saying that, and that's very important. That it doesn't mean that if you try to, or as we in a way know of how you should probably be on the internet and around gaming and stuff like that, like we're talking about now. This is our opinion, right? And of course, other people should do whatever they want. But again, I don't get the negativity. Maybe you should do that, but definitely not saying that we are better. I think that's very important to say that just because we feel like we have the right attitude or the right uh, opinions in a way that we feel doesn't mean that we are better. I think that's we just have a different opinion about how you should approach being gamers and being around other people in general as in that sense.
Gamers should use the fact that there's so many ways then you can connect and live so many different lives with gaming that you should
Mm.
just enjoy that. There should be no room. There should be no room for negativity whatsoever. And you know what? If you play 100 different lives, meaning you've played 100 different games, and there's brand new people who are looking for that next adventure, guess what? They will go to you and try to find out what are the 100 lives you've done and which ones were your favorite. They might be interested, they might be not. But there's always something to share without the
Mm.
necessity to attack each other because of what you might love and what they don't. It's like I just wish we were more happy. It's like make love, not Warcraft.
Oh yeah, Warcraft. Yeah, the good old one.
uh,
Um, I actually don't want to stop the conversation, but we actually is sort of out of time.
Whee!
I hate to stop them because like that now the conversation is really flowing, but it's just it also is that people are listening in, and we could probably talk for hours and hours and hours, and people will probably some people would be fine with that, but I think it's also expectations that when people see an episode and stuff like that, and then it's sort of just they know it's sort of about an hour. So yeah, I sort of don't want to end, but we can just talk afterwards. That's usually what happens when we when I have conversations with people, and then it's just I end the recording and then all the juicy stuff comes out. No, but
oh, there,
no, but
there.
it's just weird to say okay, stop recording and then hit the call button or the red call button, right? It's like okay, bye, and then people are like, oh, okay, that's sort of weird in a way, right? So, but yeah,
It's
we are unfortunately out of time. So thank you, Kinisel, so much for having a conversation and in some insight. Uh, you can kind of realize that I didn't hit any topics that you couldn't say no to. I
yes, you were good. I was good too.
I was a good boy. I didn't.
You were a good boy. Thanks
But
for having it. It was fun.
again, sort of in the relations to what we talked about, people can just search the answer from you. They can find your stream. I'll link it down in the description if they wanna, you know. On YouTube because it's also on on Spotify, right? You can't really go to the description in Spotify, but I guess there is actually one, but I don't know if you can. Well, I guess you can go to the web browser itself, but I guess people just listen to them on their phones or whatever. Um, but yeah, I will link it in the, of course, the YouTube description as well, so people can go, you know,
Of
check you out
course.
on the there, and then they can try to get the juicy answers out of you. And
Of course. I'm always looking forward to meeting new friends. So, yeah,
yeah,
click it up. Come talk. It's always fun.
yeah. So that's linked there. So they should definitely, yeah. And I guess Also, check out all the to be professional, right? Check out all the social medias of Gamigo and stuff like that.